You are sitting in a meeting. Your manager turns to you and asks a question you know the answer to. You have said these words 100 times before, but something happens in that moment. Your mind goes completely blank. You open your mouth and nothing comes out. Your heart is pounding. Your thoughts have vanished. Your body feels like it has been locked from the inside. And for those few seconds, you are not anxious. You are not panicking. You are simply gone. Checked out. Offline. Or maybe it happens differently for you. You get an email that creates an uncomfortable situation and you need to respond, but you cannot. You stare at it for 3 days. You know what you should do, but something will not let you move. You feel stuck in a way that has nothing to do with laziness or avoidance. Something deeper is holding you completely still. Or maybe it is not a single moment at all. Maybe it is a season of your life that is stretched on for months. You are functioning technically. You are going to work. You are taking care of your responsibilities. You are doing everything that looks like living from the outside. But inside you feel like you are watching your own life from behind glass. Numb, disconnected, present in body and absent in every other way. Like someone turned the lights down and forgot to turn them back up. If any version of this sounds familiar, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not failing at stress management or emotional regulation or any of the other things you have probably blamed yourself for. What you are experiencing has a precise biological name, a completely documented neurological mechanism, and a reason that has nothing to do with your character and everything to do with how your brain was built 250 million years ago. Today we are going to go all the way inside that mechanism, and by the time we are done, you will understand something about your own nervous system that most people spend their entire lives never learning. And that understanding is the beginning of something genuinely different. Let me start with a story, because this becomes real the moment it has a face. James is 43 years old. He is, by every external measure, a highly capable person. He runs a team at work. He is a present father. He manages a full and demanding life without it visibly falling apart. But for the past 2 years, James has been living with something he cannot name and cannot explain to anyone around him. He does not feel anxious in the way that people describe anxiety. He does not feel depressed in the way he understands depression. What he feels is flat, unreachable, like someone wrapped cotton wool around every emotion he used to have access to. He procrastinates on things that take 5 minutes. He starts tasks and cannot finish them. He has conversations he cannot recall an hour later. He sits down to do something and then 40 minutes have passed and he cannot account for where they went. He has been told he needs better time management. He has been told to exercise more. He has been told to meditate. All of those things might be true, but none of them have touched what is actually happening because nobody told James that what he is describing is not a productivity problem or a motivation problem in the way that term is usually used. It is a nervous system problem. Specifically, it is what happens when a brain that was designed for short, intense life or death danger has been running a survival response continuously for 2 years and has quietly shifted into its deepest, most ancient mode of protection. James is in functional freeze. And understanding what that actually means, neurologically and biologically, is the only thing that has ever helped people like him move through it. So let us start at the very beginning with what the freeze response actually is, where it comes from, and why your brain goes there. Most people have heard of the fight or flight response, the idea that when the brain perceives danger, the body activates into either fighting the threat or running from it. Heart rate increases, adrenaline floods the system, muscles tense, attention narrows, the body prepares for urgent physical action. This is real and it is one of the most well-documented stress responses in neuroscience. But fight and flight are not the only options the nervous system has. They are not even the first option the nervous system reaches for. Before fight, before flight, and underneath both of them, there is a third response, one that is older, more primitive, and more powerful than either. One that most people have never been taught about, even though it may be running their lives more than any other stress response currently is. That response is freeze. And it does not work the way most people think it does. When the brain's threat detection center, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain called the amygdala, receives a signal that the environment is dangerous, it makes a rapid automatic calculation. Can I fight this? Can I run from it? If the answer to both questions is yes, the sympathetic nervous system fires, and the fight or flight cascade begins. But when the amygdala's calculation determines that neither fighting nor fleeing is viable, when the threat feels inescapable, overwhelming, or too large for active defense, the brain does not simply shut down in confusion. It makes a deliberate and ancient choice. It activates a completely different system. That system runs through the oldest branch of the vagus nerve, a nerve that connects the brain to virtually every major organ in the body. When this ancient branch activates, it does something that from the outside looks like nothing, but from the inside is one of the most profound biological events a human body can experience. Heart rate drops, breathing becomes shallow, metabolism slows dramatically. The muscles that were prepared for action go passive, the voice flattens or disappears entirely. The body becomes still, and something happens in the brain that explains everything James has been living with, and everything you may have experienced in those moments of going blank. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain directly behind your forehead that handles language, logic, decision-making, problem-solving, and conscious self-awareness, goes quiet. Not slightly quieter, profoundly quieter. The neural pathways that give you access to your own words, your own reasoning, your own sense of sequential thought, they dim. The part of you that is most distinctly human, most capable of navigating the complexity of modern life, becomes largely inaccessible. This is why you opened your mouth in that meeting and nothing came out. Your prefrontal cortex was offline. Your words were not there because the part of your brain that generates them had been taken off the grid by a survival response that decided, in that moment, that thinking was less important than surviving. This is why you cannot respond to the email even when you know you should. Your brain has registered something about that situation as threatening enough, not deadly, but threatening enough to activate a partial freeze that makes initiation genuinely neurologically difficult. Not impossible to overcome with the right approach, but not a matter of simply deciding to try harder, because the mechanism that would execute that decision is operating at reduced capacity. And this is why James feels flat and unreachable and like he is watching his own life from a distance. Because the dorsal vagal state, the full-body, whole nervous system version of the freeze response, releases endogenous opioids as part of its biological package. The body anesthetizes itself. It reduces pain perception. It narrows emotional range. It produces the numbness that is the biological equivalent of the body saying, if I cannot escape this, I will at least stop it from hurting as much. The flatness James feels is not a character deficiency. It is biochemistry. It is his nervous system doing the job it was built to do, in the only way it knows how, in a world it was never designed to navigate. Now here's the part that makes this specifically relevant to modern life in a way that ancient biology never anticipated. The freeze response was designed for acute, time-limited physical threats, a predator, a sudden attack, a situation where freezing, going still, going quiet, becoming energetically invisible, gave the organism its best chance of survival until the threat passed. And when the threat passed, the animal or the ancient human would shake, literally, physically shake, trembling the stored activation out of the nervous system and returning to baseline. If you have ever watched a prey animal escape a predator, you have seen this discharge happen. The animal runs, survives, and then shakes violently for 30 seconds before walking away and continuing to graze as if nothing happened. The nervous system was not designed to carry freeze activation indefinitely. It was designed to discharge it, but modern life does not offer the discharge. The threat that activates the freeze response in 2025 is not a predator you escape in 3 minutes. It is a job that feels inescapable. It is a relationship that feels like a trap. It is a financial pressure that has no resolution in sight. It is the constant low-level incoming stimulation of a digital world that never goes quiet and never signals that the coast is clear. The brain's threat detection system does not distinguish between a lion and an impossible inbox. It responds to perceived inescapable threat. And when the threat is chronic and never resolves, the freeze response, which was supposed to be a brief, acute survival measure, becomes a permanent operating mode. This is functional freeze. The body keeps going, the responsibilities keep getting met, the person keeps showing up, but the nervous system is running in shutdown mode underneath all of it. The prefrontal cortex dimmed, the emotional range narrowed, the endogenous opioids keeping everything slightly muffled, the capacity for genuine presence and connection and creative thought operating at a fraction of its actual potential. And because functional freeze looks so much like what people call burnout, or what they call depression, or what they dismiss as just being tired, it goes unrecognized for months, sometimes years. James went 2 years. Many people go longer, living a life that looks functional and feels like going through motions, without any framework to understand what their nervous system is actually doing and why. Here is what changes that. Rule number 1. Understand that you cannot think your way out of a freeze state, and stop blaming yourself for not being able to. The prefrontal cortex is the organ of thought, analysis, and willpower. It is also the organ that is taken offline by the freeze response, telling yourself to think more clearly, try harder, just decide to do the thing. All of those instructions are being sent to the exact part of the brain that the freeze response has already dimmed. It is not that you lack determination. It is that you are giving instructions to a system that currently cannot fully receive them. The path out of freeze does not begin upstairs in the thinking brain. It begins in the body. Rule number 2. Move, not exercise in the performance sense. Movement in the physiological sense, because movement is the nervous system's primary off-ramp from freeze. When the body begins to move, it sends a signal to the brain that active defense is possible, which shifts the nervous system up from the freeze state toward the more activated fight or flight state. And from there, if the movement is sustained and gentle, the activation can discharge rather than accumulate. A 5-minute walk outside, shaking your hands and arms intentionally for 30 seconds, rolling your shoulders, swaying, any rhythmic bilateral physical motion that gives the body an outlet for the stored activation that freeze locked in place. This is not metaphor, this is neurobiology. The body discharges stress through movement because movement is how the ancient nervous system signals that the threat has passed and survival has been achieved. Rule number 3. Use the breath as a direct lever on the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, the same nerve through which the freeze response travels, is unique among the autonomic nervous system because it can be consciously influenced through breathing. A slow, extended exhale activates the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, the social, safe, connected branch, and directly signals the nervous system that the environment is safe enough to shift states. The specific pattern that researchers have consistently found most effective is a longer exhale than inhale. 4 counts in, 6 or 8 counts out. Done for even 3 to 5 minutes, this measurably shifts vagal tone in the direction of safety and regulation. Not a cure, a tool, a direct biological communication with the part of your nervous system that is currently running the shutdown in its own language. Rule number 4. Prioritize genuine safety cues over willpower. The nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for signals that indicate whether the situation is safe or threatening. Certain inputs register as safety with extraordinary reliability. The sound of a calm, warm human voice, eye contact with someone trusted, physical touch from a safe person, being seen and understood without judgment. These are not luxuries or emotional indulgences. They are neurological inputs that directly activate the ventral vagal system, the part of the nervous system that is the biological opposite of freeze. When James eventually found his way toward a therapist who worked with his body as well as his mind, who sat with him in a way that communicated safety at a level his nervous system could receive, the shift that happened over months was not primarily intellectual, it was physiological. His nervous system found enough repeated evidence of safety to begin releasing a shutdown it had been holding for 2 years. Rule number 5. Recognize the difference between being tired and being frozen, because the response to each is completely different. Tiredness resolves with rest. Freeze does not, and this is one of its most disorienting features. People in functional freeze rest and wake up feeling equally flat, equally disconnected, equally unreachable, because the freeze state is not caused by energy depletion. It is caused by a nervous system that has not yet received enough consistent evidence that the threat has passed. Rest is necessary, but rest alone, without the body-based regulation, the movement, the breathwork, the safety cues, will not discharge the freeze. It will only pause it temporarily before the next day delivers the same inputs that sustain it. Here is the truth I want to leave you with, and it is the one that I think matters most. Everything that we attribute to character in modern life, productivity, decisiveness, emotional availability, creativity, follow-through, the ability to be genuinely present with the people we love, all of it requires a prefrontal cortex that is online. All of it requires a nervous system that is not running a survival response in the background. All of it requires a body that has received enough evidence of safety to shift out of the mode it defaults to when the world feels inescapable. James is not a less capable person than he was before 2 years of relentless pressure. He is a completely capable person whose nervous system is doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting him from a threat that never fully resolves by moving into the most energy-conserving, damage-minimizing state it knows how to produce. His brain did not fail him. His brain is trying to save him, using the tools of 250 million years of evolution in a world those tools were never designed for. Understanding that distinction between a broken person and an ancient nervous system doing its best in a modern world is not a small thing. It is the thing that replaces self-blame with compassion. And compassion, as it turns out, is one of the most powerful signals of safety the nervous system knows how to receive. Your brain did not shut down because you are not strong enough. It shut down because it was trying to keep you alive. And now you know how to help it find its way back. If this video finally gave language to something you have been living with, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Wellness Over Time, because next week, we are going into exactly how chronic stress physically changes the structure of your brain over time and the specific daily practices that research shows can reverse that damage.